Welcome to this week's episode of Confessions of a PT. In this week's episode, we are going to be discussing the topic around ADHD, and I have the perfect partner for this one, Mr. Matt Cow. And I just want to start off and saying congratulations, mate, on your most recent Instagram post. You've off the medication for ADHD, and is it 6 months?
Yeah, just over 6 months now. So I was diagnosed with ADHD in January 2021. And I wasn't really surprised when I looked into kind of what it was. I was working with a therapist at the time, and he had a background in it and said, I strongly suggest you kind of get assessed. And I kind of scored off the charts. It's based into 4 different sections of things that they screen for, really kind of comprehensive assessment. And it's out of 9 for the categories. I got 9 out of 9, 9 out of 9, 8 out of 9, 9 out of 9. Mm-hmm. So they were like, you're very severe, you want to contact the DVLA. This could be a problem for you.
Driving, is it?
Yeah,
Serious?
So
Jesus.
so that's one of the first things they said. And there's support available through coaching and counselling and that kind of thing. But one of the first things is medication. And
there's a pill for everything. Yep.
And I didn't know how I felt about that for a good time. It was 4 or 5 months before I thought, it's got me this far. I only know my own mind as it is now. So, it's good. I know what I'm in for. And then I eventually caved because it was kind of explained to me like wearing glasses and the defect, or however my brain operates, from a personality matrix or from a, hemisphere type activity perspective, it was going to be helpful. So they prescribed stimulant medication. And I never had any bad side effects. I had to have all my blood work done and that to check that I was going to be okay to take it. And they start you off on a lower dose and then kind of build you up if you don't experience side effects. I think the idea is that you take as much as you can without any negative effects. And I was on it for about a year, and, life was life. And then I just kind of thought, I don't necessarily think I want to be on this till the day I die. And I really noticed when I was eating a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of processed foods, a lot of the wrong sort of stuff, mismanaging my blood sugars, I could really get severe symptoms regardless of whether I was on the medication or not. Feeling foggy, feeling really sluggish, mood swings, unregulated mood.
That's a roid, isn't
it? and so I just, I've always tried to clean my diet up for 1,000,001 different reasons anyway, but use that as even more leverage to try and eat quote unquote cleaner and better and do the right things, enough vigorous exercise, enough nutrition, decent sleep hygiene, good pattern with rest and recovery, that kind of thing, and that really, really works. It's challenging because there's certain things that it can impact. You get very hyper focused on things that you like, and you can really go down the rabbit hole quickly on things and get a lot done in a certain domain. But in other ways, life is a bit of a shit show organisation for things. And that's classic, and it can manifest itself in different ways for different people.
Yeah. So when you said you was working with a therapist, what was that? Because you thought you had ADHD? Was you aware of it? What sort of happened?
I'll be honest, this is
your life?
A groundbreaking revelation. Confessions of a PT. I have always struggled with problem gambling.
Okay.
For as long as I can remember, certainly since it was legal to gamble. So that's, I'm showing my age, a couple of decades now almost. And just impulsive. Not being able to... An addiction is very different in a sense. Addiction and ADHD are 2 different things. They're similar in a lot of ways, but they really do dovetail well together in terms of if you've got ADHD, you are exponentially more likely to have one of something and that be more of a problem for you. And they are a bit of a perfect storm in all the wrong ways. So it was to kind of troubleshoot for that, and it became a bit of a journey that went off on a tangent around why I was doing what I was doing, why it was so difficult to stop, where it kind of originated from. And it was a real kind of eye-opening to see, how the brain works, A lot of it's to do with chemicals in the brain, dopamine, you know, a lack of regulation there, a low level of dopamine where you go chasing impulsive things, whether that's spending money, you know, for some people that can be sex, drugs, rock and roll. Gambling's a massive one because it kind of, you know, it takes you on a roller coaster of emotions that
No ceiling with that as well,
there
mate.
isn't. And, you know, and I know substances do that as well. But on the flip side, it made me realise kind of why I've always been drawn to physical exercise, because there's a wonder to really emptying yourself out in the gym that is so therapeutic, so good for the brain, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, all the good stuff. And in the same way, eating clean does that as well. And, you know, we like our junk food as a society because that gives like a bit of a dirty high, but eating on balance really makes you feel, you know, so much better. And, you know, I do binge eat as well. When I go off the rails, I really go off the rails. And again, that's classic ADHD.
One extreme to the other. So you said about the four subtopics. So you got nine out of 10. How are you assessed with that? Is it like questions, or is it around could you?
So it's extensive questionnaire with like friends and family. It's series of surveys, yourself, interviews, that kind of thing. I've never actually had any of like the brain scan stuff done. Okay. But I've always kind of wanted to, because I can just think back from my gambling days of kind of how it would just light up just in certain ways, and just think that's kind of not normal. And I know, you know, like say people can get addicted to things, and when you do, that skews the brain and wires it differently, and that's not necessarily an ADHD thing. But yeah, it's kind of impulsivity, concentration. You know, mood is a big part of it. I actually can't remember what the 4 are. I shall look this up, maybe put it in the comments below. But yeah, like it's a struggle to stay in a regulated mood and be like on a baseline. Like if I'm watching a film, you know, I have like little fidget toys that I play with. I'm up and down, sorting stuff out. And, you know, in the modern day, it feels like everyone's got ADHD. And I'm almost loath to talk about it for that reason. I think everyone has got ADHD symptoms in the modern day.
Self-diagnose a lot as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we're all addicted to our phones. We're all overwhelmed with information. We've all got 1,000,001 different marketing messages, people wanting our time, and we've all got very low attention spans for that reason, and that is going backwards. I think everyone can relate to that. But a bit of that and actually having it hardcore are two completely different things. I mean, I should imagine you can probably relate to some of this and think, oh, yeah, I'm a bit like that on my phone all the time. Or
oh god, yeah, I'm on my phone 20. Most of it for work, but it is gripping. And I know we touched on it on a different podcast about how the phones are set up to make you be the consumer with addiction. So like you said, you touched on gambling, drink, phone addiction, food addiction, two addictions that probably most don't realise. But yeah, massively bad. Is there any time, so is it like constant in your brain? Like when you train, does it go away? When you're on holiday, is there certain things that make you relax more? What's an example of it? Like you just can't concentrate?
It's so difficult to switch off, again, which is so... A lot, the average person will listen to that and think, well, I can't switch off. You know, I wouldn't really be able to meditate. I wouldn't be able to. But it's why, you know, I love like the sauna. I love like the ice baths. I love things that push me physically, where it's the idea behind the medication is that it speeds the body up in line with the brain. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of get a match there. So anything that you can do to kind of, you know, it's like when you're absolutely exhausted from exercise, you can't. Tyson Fury said this in his program, you know, you can't think about your other problems and be absolutely emptied out. So whatever's going on in the external world, it's a tonic to that, because like your body prioritizes putting you back together. Your brain's firing with all these chemicals of do that again. You did something that really helped, you know, so there's that side of it that is really just like such a tonic for it, from just the, you know, the normal day of, you know, I can only speak for my mind, but it is kind of like incredibly noisy. And so I know a lot of people would struggle to meditate and things like that. But yeah, it's been a real kind of journey to find foods and the relationship with food, because you know, I'm going to sound conspiracy theorist again for the umpteenth time.
Here we go. You love it.
But in the same way, there are people sitting around working out why you don't have clocks in casinos, why you don't have corners in casinos, why the room is regulated at a certain temperature, so you forget how long you're comfortable, you forget how long you stay in there. There
oxygen, free drinks, isn't it?
Oxygen, you know, that kind of culture. The idea, you know, the wheel is, it's just missed my number by one, which means like I wasn't, you know, next time, that kind of thing. It's set up to kind of do a number on the human brain, and that is the same with food. There are people sat round a table working out how you can have Pringles once and laughing at it. You know, once you pop, you can't stop. You can bypass certain parts of your brain that recognise that you're full and just go into this, I want to eat for enjoyment, I want to eat for mouth pleasure and for sensory overload, not from I'm full. And there are foods on the market on our shelves now, you know, it's 10 times worse in America, but we're pretty bad as well. And that plays into everyone kind of having, you know, under the ADHD umbrella, because they're all can't stop eating food that's addictive, you know, can't stop online gambling because that's very functional, can't stop. But yeah, there is definitely still a line, I think, between people that kind of have it and, you know, the diagnosis is off the charts with people maybe, I think it's about 3% of the population, but you watch social media, you think it was 30, you know, and that's no disrespect to anyone. It's a topic that people kind of want to talk about and share about, which is good because that's therapeutic. But at the same time, you know, someone will be 10 minutes late to work and be like, my ADHD again. And it's like, well, no, mate, it's a bit different to that.
They use it as leverage. What do you think about the whole thing where your phone listens to what you're saying with that? Because I feel like they have one conversation and then all of a sudden your algorithm is like, ADHD,
I mean, that
ADHD.
is worrying. Like,
scary as shit.
You know, the amount of times I've like said, you know, I'm thinking about going to need to buy a new tent or something like that, something that I've never said in years, and then next thing you know, it's like, millets have got and it's like you've listened to me there, like I've never searched millets, I've never searched tent, I don't camp, I just said it. And it'd be an interesting experiment now because I've just said this. A few millets.
Oh my god, that's it.
I mean, what do you think about this? You've got experience with that.
Absolutely, so many times, and it's frightening when you come up and it's like, I can guarantee when we go to bed later on today, it'll be the first thing that go in minutes. I'll screenshot you. I'll be like,
we'll both be in camo right, for the next podcast. The wellies on and that.
What I touched on, what you said about the supermarkets. Have you seen that guy that goes in at supermarkets, like what supermarkets were like 20 years ago to now? So like the trolleys are like triple the size. You know that perception of your trolley not being full? Costco's a perfect example. You get like an absolute lorry. Because it's like you have to buy so much, I haven't bought a lot, and it's that perception. The worst thing about Costco as well, they don't put VAT on until you get to the till. It's like in this small writing, awful. But so it's all about the supermarkets are set up to basically everything at eye level, which is like processed. Obviously, all the chocolate bars and that are right by when you pay. It is corrupt, but like I said, it's profit, isn't it? That is what says. You touched on something earlier. I don't know if you want to go into about Nestle and Kellogg's. If we're talking about conspiracy theories.
I mean, when you look at the hierarchy of corporate America, how much these companies have influence. You know, that there's like a company that you've heard of that's owned by another company that's owned by Ford, that's owned by like Kellogg's or something. You realise just how massive they are. And you think, when there's a war on obesity, is it ever going to be solved rather? Because there's always going to be those chocolate bars at the till at your right eye level. You know, so people are looking into human psychology daily, sat round a table thinking, how do we best sell this? And it's flying out the door at the expense of the human race. When do we kind of be like, well, let's stop feeding them chocolate, because as opposed to the profit? Do you know what I mean? It astounds me not how they can get away with it, because I'm not naive enough to not realise how the world works, but it's harrowing when you think of that. And this is the thing, like, people will watch the news and be like, oh, no, they wouldn't lie to us. They've got our best interests at heart. And it's like, yeah, but you agree that chocolate's put on this level because that's where you most look, and you accept that there's no clock in a casino because it makes sense for you to not know how long you've been there. You accept that.
Yeah.
But yet, like, the newsreader is only giving you what's exactly happened with no agenda, no kind of forces behind it.
But there was that.
Come on.
I think it was like 20 different news stations. I'm sure this was in America as well. I don't know if it was that many, but had the exact same intro script ending word for word. And these are all like completely, whether it was Western or Eastern, and you're like that can't be a coincidence. So what is the message they're trying to deliver? Bit off topic here, and I want to just touch on this. Do you know, if we're talking about conspiracy theorists, I have to be a little bit careful, but the stats of people that are under 50 that have now got, I can't remember if I said was it COVID is 75% higher, or cancer, sorry, since the COVID jab. 75% higher.
We should probably cut here before the powers that be demonetize us.
But
nice knowing you, everyone.
I said that completely
We
wrong.
don't want to harm ourselves. We should just say at this point.
Yeah.
We would never harm ourselves. Yeah, I mean, I could be here till midnight talking about my problems with COVID. We'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah.
It's, again, you are, the powers that be, the news, the mainstream, would have you believe that you are at the effect of your life. You are not, you're at the cause. You can go and get in an ice bath later. You can eat well. You can change your circumstance. It's not things that will come and tap you on the shoulder and grapple you. Yes, people get unlucky statistically with illnesses and things, but lead a positive lifestyle and everything will change in your favour. Food, sleep, recovery. It's not sexy, doesn't sell. You're never going to see it sold anywhere.
But I think that's the biggest correlation to it is food, like processed food, ultra processed food. We touched on it last episode about the 0-calorie foods, like all of this domino in effect into more health implications, whether or not that's in relation to cancer or if it is the COVID jab or whatever. But it's not slowing down, and it's going to get more and more. NHS is under more and more pressure. And then to finish up then, what are your views around sort of interventions from the NHS?
Let me just jump in quickly first. One thing that absolutely did my crust like no other was being in Tesco's with people with double face masks and hazmat suits on, like trying to avoid this killer virus with a 99.99999% survival rate. You look down in their basket, think, go on, let it be pak choy, asparagus, blueberries. Tell me, if it is, I've got nothing but love for you. Chicago Town pizzas, Doritos, and it's just like, how can you get a misweighting bias like that of
the news?
You are scared shitless about this thing that's going to hop over your neighbour's fence and attach itself to you, but any proactive health measures have been completely lost on you. Just astounding, continues to astound me. NHS interventions, it's the world we live in.
Whee! You got it in there. We live in a world.
You know, it is, and I don't necessarily agree with gastric bans and things like that. I feel like, I don't want to say it's a waste of taxpayers' money, but there should be a level of personal responsibility in certain ways of certain things. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got to be careful what I say. I don't think it's a cop-out, but I feel it needs to be a last resort. And some people may be at that point where they're literally going to die if they don't have it like immediately. But a lot of people, like we touched on with the ADHD, like they jump on that bandwagon as it's the only way out. Like, and they plead. Some people are very good at, I say, blagging very lightly, but saying they need it because we live in a world.
Only I, by the way, could take an ADHD conversation into conspiracy.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? So yeah, in short, I feel there's multiple avenues that should be explored first, and I feel like maybe even the government should fund PTs more to give people a 12-week block with the goats. Do you know what I mean? It might be better.
Subsidised gym membership. Could
100%.
That be done? You'd like to think so. I mean, I know some of the smart watches and the healthcare companies are, you get your premiums reduced or you get bonuses, incentives for hitting your steps, and I think that's a great start.
Yeah.
I think someone at some point has to piece that together and make that possible, because that would help surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Confession this week has come from Sean, who used to work in gym membership sales.
Uh-oh.
And he messaged me, giving me the rundown, this I will paraphrase. He said he took this lady, very well-to-do lady, around on a gym tour. And super professional. He's there in his, kind of shirt and trousers that he used to wear. So not in gym membership sales are more usually in shorts and t-shirt now, but back then it used to be kind of a bit more like you were going to a bank or something. He's met this lady, shown her around, and she said at the end, "Sean, you've utterly charmed me. I'd like to join. This looks like a very professional health club. I'm really happy with the facilities here. Can't wait to get started." He said, "Thank you very much. I'll be right back." And he's gone into the sales office to get her drinks bottle and her rucksack, which is like a new joining gift that you get. There's a couple of other lads in the sales office, and he's cocked his leg, done this absolute ripper of a fart, thrown it into the office, and he's gone, "Pick the bones out of that then." And he's turned round and she is there.
Oh my God. That is, game over.
And he's just gone bright red. I mean, he's
Pick
still...
the bones out of that. That is so
He said
good.
she's still joined up, but just like, what a magnificent story.
Oh, mate, that is fucking golden, to be fair. That is so good. Cool, Ryan. I think we'll wrap it up there. But
Yeah.
congratulations, medication-free of the
Broski.
ADHD. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for next week.